I don't understand, and it is baffling to me, having known a lot of Democrats, but you've been in that world your whole life. Like, how do they not see that? How do people who say they believe in civil liberties suddenly think it's okay for the government to prosecute its political opponents and silence them? How do they think that?
You know, to me, I've thought a lot about that.
I bet.
And it's about tribalism. That people put themselves in these tribal categories, and we're hardwired for tribalism. That's why orthodoxies are so popular, that, people get sucked into various kind of orthodoxies, whether it's ideological orthodoxies or religious orthodoxies. And that impulse it's not a religious impulse. It's a biological impulse, and it's an impulse that's hardwired in us from the 20,000 generations we spent wandering the African savannah in tiny little groups that were warring each other, where there was always a male leader, where the women were traded as chattels because you couldn't marry your sisters. So you knew from the beginning she was going to be a trade good, and you were going to trade her for somebody else. So she had no power. And where you all had to ascribe to an orthodoxy and see no problems with people who were within your in-group, and people who were outside were subhuman and they could be killed. And if they made a mistake, you wanted to talk about it. Everybody would talk about it. We're all hardwired that way because that's where our wiring comes from. And when somebody gets subsumed in an orthodoxy, it's very, very difficult to unravel it. And there are all kinds of psychiatric treatises about how do you deprogram somebody? How do you talk somebody out of an orthodoxy? And the little that I know about it is that if you challenge them directly, you challenge their belief, it pours concrete on it, and it makes them less able to move off that, or they get very defensive. And that, the way to approach them, there are ways to approach them. There's deprogramming protocols, and they usually include a lot of Socratic method of asking them questions about their belief. But it's a one-on-one project enterprise. And it's not something that you can do with the whole Democratic Party overnight. Something has to happen that's going to make this, this tribal thinking unravel, because it's really destroying our country. And the polarization, which is happening on both sides, is put on steroids by these social media algorithms that reward people for staying on the site as long as possible. So the algorithm, all the algorithm knows is I've got to keep as many eyeballs on the site as possible. It turns out that the way people stay on the site is if you fortify their existing opinions.
Of course.
If you feed them information that consolidates their worldview.
Yes.
And so, we have this problem now where it's not just polarization like the Civil War, but it's polarization on steroids, because you've got machines that are manipulating us to hate each other more every single day.